Say navigate, and it asks you where, and then you say where you want to go. And it'll go onto the highway all by itself. Now, this man who's driving this Tesla Model 6 had it go 21 miles on a superhighway from the start of where he works. And he was amazed that it went on the highway all by itself. And it just keeps on going by itself. And when it wants to pass, it will. And when it doesn't, it won't. And there it goes. It's going off the exit trunks, which you can use. And this is what the console looks like. It's fairly clean design. The steering wheel, of course, is in the middle. There's a couple of little thumb wheel controls which control the volume of the radio and so forth. But that's all you get in the center there to control the entire vehicle. And here is the gas outlet, which has been replaced by an electronic socket. And you can see the big cable which comes from my fast charger in the garage. And there's the autopilot and navigate screen again. And if you would like to adjust the airflow, you take and run your finger where that white puff of smoke there is, and it can adjust the airflow wherever you want it for either the driver's side or the passenger side. And another screen shows you the seat heaters, and you have 3 different levels of seat heat you can bring up.
Dr. Paul Carr is an MIT alumnus with a PhD from Brandeis University. He's also an IEEE Life Fellow. He led the component technology branch of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Hanscom Field, where his team developed the surface acoustic wave SAW technology used in compact signal processing filters for radar, cell phones, and television. Dr. Carr taught at UMass Lowell and authored the book Beauty in Science and Spirit. He spoke at the Institute of Religion in an Age of Science conference, where he presented the wicked problem of climate change. In 2017, he was awarded the IRAS Academic Fellow Award. His website is mirrorofnature.org. Please welcome Dr. Paul Carr.
Fun saving our planet. Here's the rear of my neighbor's Chevy Bolt, as you can see in the left here. You notice his number plate, 4 gas. And then you look further down and he says, this is my Volkswagen. Have you figured out that this guy is an MIT alum? E over C squared is M. Remember, from A equals MC squared. Square root of -1 is I. And then T is, this is the perfect gas law. So this is an MIT alum driving this car. I'm also an MIT alum. Next slide. Well, here's a photo of my all-electric 2000 Chevy Bolt EV. Has a range of 238 miles after a full charge, and the newest model is 259 miles. Quiet acceleration from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.3 seconds. It's about half that of the Tesla's Model S and X, but the Bolt is half the cost. I thought that was a pretty good trade-off. Well, when I first got this car, I never had such a fast acceleration, such a hot car. So I was showing it off to my wife, Ginny. And then a few days later, it was her turn to drive. And she floored it. And I was so surprised. I never thought of her as a hot rod. And ever since then, whenever she drives, I've been wearing my crash helmet here. Can you see it? Here's my crash helmet. So this is Ginny driving, and I'm driving my crash helmet because she's become a hot rod. Do you want to say anything, Ginny?
Yes, I don't think you're telling the truth, Paul. I just do what the automobile says is safe to do. And if I go a little faster than the police, then I don't get any tickets. So don't you think that's all right?
Okay, well, so that's our own personal experience of driving a Chevy Bolt. And there it is. Next slide. Next. Yeah, it's interesting to me that the batteries, motor, and the one-speed transmission are made in South Korea. EVs only require one-speed transmission. That's one of the reasons they're simpler than the conventional internal combustion engine car. But the Bolt was put together at GM in Michigan. Next. Well, here's the sticker on my car. You might notice that it gets the equivalent of 119 miles per gallon, and you save $4,250 in fuel costs over 5 years. Next. It has an 8-year warranty or 100,000 miles on the electric propulsion unit, namely the battery. Next. And the number of moving parts in an electric motor is an order of magnitude less than an internal combustion engine. Electric motors are more than twice as efficient as internal combustion engines, ICE. And basically, the reason you get such good acceleration is high torque at low RPM, and there's no variable transmission, only a single one-speed transmission. Well, electric vehicles are saving our planet. On the far right, you see the cost of refueling a gasoline car in Illinois is $2.74, and the equivalent electric car is only 70 cents to about a factor of 4 advantage in the cost of getting ready for a long drive. Well, you can see from this map. Electric vehicle emission is equivalent to gasoline cars in the best state of New York. If you look at New York up at the top there, 101 miles. Of course, the emissions of electric vehicles are not at the electrical vehicle. There's no carbon dioxide coming out of the tailpipe. So the emissions from driving a car is at the generation comes from the generating plant. And New York State seems to have the most green energy, a lot of hydro and nuclear. So an electric car in New York State the equivalent internal combustion car would have to get 191 miles per gallon to compete with a EV, the environmental impact of an EV. You can see in New England here, we're at 102 miles per gallon, but the lower equivalent gas mileages are in the Midwest here. These are the coal burning states, and even the worst one at 38 miles per gallon is still better than the average ICE car, which gets 25 miles per gallon. Next. Well, this is me sitting in my EV Bolt, and there's a paddle wheel behind the steering wheel that activates regenerative braking. It's like shifting into low gear. And what happens is that when you activate the regenerative braking, you're charging the battery rather than dissipating that same energy in your brakes. So the next slide shows how an electric dump truck produces more energy than it uses. This is a dump truck, drives up a mountain with no load, carries double the weight back down the mountain after getting loaded up with lime and marble to deliver to the cement plant. Since electric vehicles can recover energy through regenerative braking, rather than wasting energy as heat in traditional braking system, the extra weight on the way down actually delivers more energy to the batteries than the truck used on the way up the mountain. Next slide. Well, as you can see, the price of lithium batteries has come down dramatically since 2010, when they were first introduced in electric cars. The lithium battery pack in 2021 is the order of $170 per kilowatt hour, and this could decrease by half by 2030. I borrowed this slide from MIT professor Don Sadoway, who's working on liquid batteries, and he says if you want to make batteries cheap, make them from dirt. If you want to make them dirt cheap, make them from dirt. Next. Well, here's a news item in The Guardian, just the 22nd of January, reports that electric vehicles are nearing a tipping point of widespread mass adoption due to plummeting battery costs. Electric vehicle sales rose 43% in 2020, but even faster growth is anticipated when continuing falls in battery prices bring the price of electric cars dipping below that of equivalent gas and diesel models, even without subsidies. Recent analyses predict that it will occur sometime between 2023 and 2025, although the tipping point has already been passed in Norway, where tax breaks mean electric cars are already cheaper. Amazon has just ordered, Amazon now has its own delivery vans, as you may have seen, and Amazon has now ordered 100,000 electric vans from Rivian, and the first of them are due later this year. UPS, DHL, and FedEx are also, can you go back? Can you go back to the former slide? Oh, here. UPS, DHL are also need electric trucks for deliveries to meet their carbon emission goals. EVgo, the largest fast charging public network in the country, announced Friday that has agreed to go public through a merger with blank check firm Climate Change Crisis Real Impact Acquisition Corp with a deal putting EVgo's value at $2.6 billion. EV operates more than 800 fast charging locations across the U.S. states, catering to over 220 customers, and works with automakers including GM, BMW, Nissan, and also a ride-hailing company Uber. And I'm sure the speakers on the Tesla speakers will point that Tesla has its own private charging network in addition on all the major highways. Well, I might note that the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for the lithium-ion battery was just awarded in 2019. The lithium battery that got its start before the 1970 oil crashes. During this time, John Goodenough, who was then at MIT's Lincoln Laboratory, was to evaluate a project by scientist Whitingham at Exxon, the Exxon Research Lab. M. Stanley Whitingham battery had you can see a titanium disulfide cathode, you can see on the right with a big plus on it. And on the left, you see an inflammable lithium metal anode. Of course, during a discharge, as you can see, the electrons go from the anode to the cathode, and then the ions inside the battery go the opposite way, as you can see. The lithium, however, at Exxon developed dendrite whiskers that shorted the battery, causing serious fires at Exxon, and that's why they gave up on it. Well, John Goodenough, who had moved from Lincoln to Oxford University in the UK, in 1980 replaced the cathode with lithium cobalt oxide on the right here that increased the voltage doubled the voltage from 2 volts to 4 volts, a major advance. And you can see on the right, the cobalt oxide, you can see the lithium ions, what they call sort of slip in between the layers of this cobalt oxide, and that one makes them the battery rechargeable. In other words, there's no strong chemical bond when they reach the right hand terminal, and so when you charge the battery, the electrons go the other way. I mean, the ions go the other way, and they go back from the positive terminal to the negative terminal. And then when you go back. It turns out Arika Ashino Nobel, the third Nobel Prize winner in Japan, replaced the flammable lithium anode with petroleum coke graphite, which you can see on the left here. And then in 1991, Sony started commercializing it for electronic devices, which we now use every day. Here's a picture of John Goodenough in the 1960s and at the MIT Lincoln Lab when I was working there. Next is a picture of John, age 97, Nobel laureate, the oldest ever Nobel laureate, age 97, who's now, and he's still continuing working on better batteries. He has a better battery using a glass electrode that he thinks will increase the capacity by a factor of 3. So next. Here's the paper that I wrote when I was at Lincoln Lab. You notice we were working on, he used cobalt oxide. We were working on other oxides, as shown here, titanium and vanadium oxides, back at Lincoln Laboratory. And you can see I I profited, I and my co-author, Siphoner, profited from informative discussions with John Goodenough. Next. So conclusions. Electric vehicles are fun to drive, scientific acceleration from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3 to 6 seconds. They're doubly green, saving our planet with no carbon dioxide emissions and saving the green in your pocket. Remember the number plate, forget gas. Next. According to MIT Professor Bongiorno's study presented last year, of course, I might comment here that as electric cars become more prevalent on the road, we're going to the utilities are going to have to increase their generating capability, and looks like nuclear buildup is the buildup of nuclear reactors is the best way to do this. They're there 24/7 as opposed to wind and solar, which aren't always there when you need them, particularly at night for solar. So he's in the study concluded that a nuclear reactor buildup at a historically feasible rate could completely decarbonize the world's electric power sector within 30 years. The energy storage costs needed to make wind and solar without nuclear would make them up to 4 times more expensive than with no reactors. You know, the wind and solar guy says, well, we'll have batteries, but it's going to cost 4 times more expensive. And that's, by the way, if you compare Germany, which has lots of wind and solar, with France, which has lots of nuclear, it turns out that that the cost of electricity in France is a lot less than the cost of electricity in Germany. Next, just a nice view of why we want to save our beautiful Earth. Here's the Earthrise from the moon. Next. So why carbon-free energy? Well, we need to save our beautiful Earth because it's the only one with chocolate.
Dr. Kenneth Laker received a BE in electrical engineering from Manhattan College and an MS and PhD degree from New York University. He received the honorary doctorate of electronics and computer engineering from the Technical University of Crete, Greece. He was chair of the electrical engineering department at the University of Pennsylvania and retired as an emeritus professor of electrical and systems engineering. Dr. Laker's work in microelectronic circuits has contributed 4 textbooks, over 100 articles, and 6 patents. He is a former president and now a Life Fellow in the IEEE and has received numerous awards, including the Richard M. Emberson Award for his vision and leadership on behalf of the Institute's technical and educational activities. And recently, he was inducted into the IEEE Technical Activities Board Hall of Honor for championing the use of information technologies and the Internet. Please welcome Dr. Ken Laker.
I'm pleased to be here to continue with the very fine presentation by Dr. Paul Carr, Electrical Vehicles, Fun Saving the Planet, with a focus on the Tesla Model S. The Tesla certainly has been the EV company that has led the EV evolution. It is certainly responsible for many of the progress that's been made in EV technology, and the Model S was its first production vehicle. So with that, I'd like to organize my presentation as follows. Talk about first the history of the Tesla Model S, features of the contemporary Tesla Model S, my experience. I am KRL owning a Tesla Model S. Well, here we have a chronology of the history. In April 2009, it was the exclusive premiere of the Model S electric car. None of them have been built yet. There may have been a model made, but it wasn't in production yet. That didn't happen until 2012. But also, what's important was introduced in April 2009. I think during the Obama administration was the $7,500 federal tax credit, and that was a very important factor for many of us, including me, in deciding to buy an electric vehicle. Now, in April 2016, the Hepa filtration system with bioweapon defense mode was introduced. This sounds like it belongs in a Air Force jet, but in fact, it's a very important part of the Tesla Model S and Model X features. I'll say more about that in a minute. In 2018, the HEPA filter system became standard in the term the standard in the Tesla Model S and the Model X. In 2016, it was an option which you could buy, which I chose to do in my automobile. And August 2020, there are drivetrain improvements which updated the range from 370 miles to 402 miles. And this is a very nice graphical depiction of the value of the HEPA filter bioweapon defense mode. These graphs on the y-axis is the contaminant volume, contaminant per unit volume, which is PM 2.5 concentration, which is in micrograms per meter cubed. And PM 2.5 refer to contaminant particles that are less than or equal 2.5 micrometers in diameter. For example, the COVID-19 virus particles are approximately 0.125 microns in diameter. Those are in the wheelhouse of this bioweapon defense mode. So we see on this graph, we see one graph which shows the outdoor air concentration, which is in black and gray. Then you have the inside the car, which is in blue. And the red line indicates when the doors are closed and the bioweapon defense mode is activated. It takes 2 minutes for the biodefense activation to actually do its job and reduce which was very hazardous contamination in the car to very good air quality. And so on the right index, we see the sort of the range from good to, I don't know what beyond index means, but hazardous, but I'm sure it's worse than hazardous. It's very hazardous. And so the x-axis is time in minutes, and so it takes about 2 minutes for the biodefense mode to work. You turn it on, and it's incredible. It's what I liked about it, because there was no COVID in 2017 when I got my car, but you're starting to see fires around the country, and so you could clean your car if you got smoke in your car. You could clean it out very quickly using this system, and it's unique as far as I know to the Tesla and to the Model X and Model S and Model S and Model X, and I believe it's now going to be introduced into the Model 3 and Model Y. This, I think, is a cute cartoon, sort of illustrates the issue that many of us had with our decision to buy an electric vehicle. That was range anxiety. Can we make it to our destination before our battery runs out of charge? And what do we do about it? And that was a concern I had, and certainly my wife had. And so this is sort of showing it kind of in a worst case, not practical, but the fact that you've got the car sort of hand wired into an outlet in your car, in your home. So that's the limiting. But in fact, it's nowhere near that bad. And the other thing was the continuous declining federal tax credit. As I mentioned, in 2009, the tax credit was introduced during the Obama administration. But once Trump got into power, that administration was not a fan of electric vehicles. So they started to decrease the tax credit based on the number of automobiles produced by a given company. And Tesla, having produced the most, Tesla has right now no federal tax credit. Ford, for example, which is starting its first one with the Mustang Mach-E, will have the $7,500 tax credit. So it gives a overwhelming advantage. Maybe that's good. It's not, but I believe that tax credit's going to return with the Biden administration. So, but right now you get no tax credit if you buy a Tesla. So how is the Tesla range anxiety mitigated? This actually applies to all Teslas, not just to the Model S. First of all, is the stations spread over the country, in fact, all over the world. Now, the Tesla supercharging stations can only be used by Tesla. No other EV can be charged there. It's totally proprietary. So you're not competing as a Tesla owner with any other excuse me, EV in using a charging station. What's also really cool is that the Tesla supercharging locations and actually facts about each supercharging location have been integrated into the Tesla's GPS navigation. So if you start to develop your trip path, its route, you will see all of the nearby convenient charging stations that you can use to charge your car. And so you can barely see them on here. That line that's going through the middle is the route, and then there are little red circles or dots that are in there. Those are the Tesla superstations. And then we have the increasing battery capacity. So the combination of these three, complementary events is making it easier to deal with range anxiety and mitigating it for all practical purposes. It's just going to get better. Now, charging at a public charging network. Now, Tesla's charging stations are public, but you're not going to be able to use it unless you have a Tesla. So any Tesla owner can use the stations. And these are charging networks that exist all over the world. Now, the other charging stations that are, let's say in the US, the biggest one is ChargePoint. ChargePoint is the largest public charging station network in the US and Canada, and it's for EVs using tiers 1 and 2. Tiers 1 and 2. First of all, tiers 1 and 2 for Tesla, 1 and 2 for ChargePoint are AC charging. The batteries are DC. So you may ask, how the hell do I get from AC to DC? Well, you have a onboard charging charger, which converts the AC to DC with an inverter plus whatever other things it needs to do to make the energy proper for the battery. And the standard connector is this SAE J1772. So that's what it looks like. That's the ChargePoint. The bottom illustration or picture is a ChargePoint plug. And in order to convert, to be able to use that with a Tesla, because the Tesla's plug is unique. It doesn't naturally fit anything except Tesla charging station. So Tesla provides an adapter, which is it's an accessory included in every Tesla for converting the Tesla plug into an SAE J772, so you can go to ChargePoint and charge with them. So you can go to any charging station that is compliant with SAE J1772, and you can charge your car. But not every car, no other car, but Tesla can charge in a Tesla supercharger. This is my car in front of my house. A nice black Tesla 75D. And it's a 2017 model. So 75 is 75 kilowatt hour battery, and it has a range of about 250 miles. It has dual electric motors, and that's for all-wheel drive. Its acceleration is, I have no ludicrous mode. I felt I was a little bit too old for that, so my wife thought I was really old for that. So I got the normal, which is 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.3 seconds, which is plenty fast. It's a 4-door plus hatchback. It seats 5 adults comfortably. It has adaptive air suspension, which is optional in my car, so I added it. It's now standard in all, at least Tesla's Model S and Model X. The Hepa filtration system, I added that. Now it's standard. Tinted glass roof, regenerative braking, which is worth its weight in gold. Excuse me. It has a very low center of gravity. Why? Because the battery, which is the heaviest component of the car, is at the bottom of the car. And I'll show a picture of that in a second. smooth, quiet ride. It has 2 displays. Uh, I got free supercharging, so I go for as long as I own this car to any Tesla supercharger, and I charge for free. It has automatically recessed door handles. These recessed door handles are important because when the door handles are recessed when you drive, it makes the car more aerodynamic, and that's the whole purpose for the recessed door handles in any of the, at least the Teslas. I don't know they all. I might presume that all electric cars have them. Now the storage is pretty cool because I have 2 storages. All Teslas do. You have the rear trunk, which is the hatchback, and you can see some junk back there that maybe indicates some of the depth back there. I have no option for a 3rd row of seats, so that's it. Then you have the front trunk, which is often called the frunk. So you open up the front, and you have, that's where your motor would be in a internal combustion engine automobile, and you can see there's nothing there, nothing. And I have my 0 emissions front license plate. So here are the home Tesla charging unit and the Tesla all-wheel drivetrain and battery. That's my wall charger, which I highly recommend if you have a Tesla. It costs about $500 for the unit, and it costs about another $400 or $500 to get it installed. So that's in my garage. So I pull my car in, plug it in, and it charges. And then you can see where the battery is, right at the bottom. Right? So that's why the car is so stable, and it provides that very low center of gravity. Then you can see the 2 motors. One is in the front axle, and the other is on the rear axle. Now the tri-motor one will actually have 2 front axle motors, which may be in the wheels, and it will also have they'll have 1 front motor and then 2 rear motors, which will be supposedly in the wheels. And there is one EV that's coming out that has all of its motors in the wheels. So here are the displays. So the front display is right in front of you as a driver. Right? So where you would find your instruments on a internal combustion engine car. And the digital speedometer is that little 0. It's parked. It's not going anywhere. On the right is a clock. And left is a instantaneous battery use. So it's as you're driving along, it shows you how you're using your battery charge. And if you go into regenerative braking, it actually goes below 0 and it turns green. And then in the middle is my Tesla. It's a black Tesla, so it's the Tesla in the display is black. It shows you, it's monitoring what's happening on either side of the road. So it'll show you where the obstructions are. Later on, we'll show you where all the vehicles are. And then on the right-hand side is the 20-inch display, which provides both your map. I have it in the satellite mode. You see, it's like, looks like you see it in real life. And then you have the infotainment center on the bottom. So you can adjust the display so that you eliminate the infotainment system and have the whole 17 inches only mapped. And then there are much more you get. You do all your settings from this 20-inch touchscreen. This is a touchscreen. The 20-inch is a touchscreen. The center display is not a touchscreen. So here you see on the left, the middle, this is in navigation mode. The blue is the navigation, is basically the path, part of the path that I'm going to use for my trip. And then to the left is the center display behind the steering wheel, which shows you some interesting displays. On the right is the battery, basically the battery is on the left is a cross it's like a heads-up display of a portion of the route, the closest, just a few miles or so, or maybe even less than that, of where you are located and where the next turns are. And that changes all the time as you're driving. It rotates. It's a pretty cool thing to watch. And you can just stare at that. You don't have to go over to the right and look at the center display. You can use that to basically guide your travel as you progress through your trip. And in the middle, now this is for a red Tesla, so you see a red Tesla in there, and you see these silhouettes of trucks and cars. These are cars on the road next to you. Now this may be a major highway where all the vehicles are going in one direction on one part of the highway, and then across some grassy area there may be probably another section of highway where all the cars are going the other way. So all you're seeing here are the cars in your direction and where they are relative to your car. So this is part of the autopilot. Now here's some other screens that depict other things that you can do. All this in the middle one, all of the items shown on the left column are things that you can click on that enable you to set different parameters for all of those functions. So the navigation one is on the left, and you can decide to do automatic navigation, the trip planner, online routing. Whoops, I just lost my. You can decide to avoid ferries, avoid tolls, whatever. And so it allows you to choose some settings that will determine how your navigation system functions. This is all changing all the time. And these are all updated, by the way, by the online internet update system that Tesla has. So these screens have changed multiple times since I've owned the car. On the right is the screen for you to decide how you want to charge. Now, if you're charging for a long trip, you can basically charge all the way to the end, which is roughly 250 miles. They recommend, if you're not doing that, for normal everyday charging, is to do only 80% to help, maintain the battery lifetime better. And so I usually do it at 80%. For me is about 215 miles. So you can set that. So it's a slider that you can use to set where you want to how far you want to charge your battery. Now we also have over on the middle, I guess I repeated this slide on the left for some reason, they shouldn't have, but is basically the slide that determines how you want to determine the internal comfort of your car. The heating of the seats, the heating of all 5 seats are heated. The steering wheel is heated. The windshield wipers are heated. And if you look at the top, you can see there's a symbol there on the right-hand side. That's the bioweapons defense mode button. If you push it in, you activate the bio defense mode. And then Tesla has a lot of fun. There are games. These are some what they call Easter eggs that they put into the car. Sketchpad. Mars, you can actually turn your car into a Mars vehicle and you travel over Mars. No streets, so it doesn't mean a whole lot. Christmas, there's a Santa, but my oldest granddaughter loves the one that's centered here. And this is a whoopee cushion. And you can put it on any seat. And then you can push a button, whatever you want, and it will determine. It's called fart on demand. So they said having fun in electric vehicles, where Tesla has built in a lot of fun, and this is changing all the time with downloads from above.
Well, that concludes our program, Electric Vehicles, Fun Saving Our Planet. A special thanks goes to my colleagues, Len Long, Ted Kachansky, Paul Carr, and Ken Laker. I'm John Horrigan. Join us for our next episode on sustainability and renewable energy. Take care.